Welcome to SAM Conversation, an online program of South Asia Monitor. It is our pleasure to welcome today Brig PS Gothra, whose latest book I'm enjoying reading, Plot, Lies and Deceit, Pulwama and Balakot. Is a very hot and a catchy title, and also the contents are it's a novel, so he's kept from the Madras Regiment, 19th Battalion, which he commanded, and has been a very prolific writer of articles and short stories. He's also done, he's served in the hardest of areas, both the line of actual control, the line of control, and has also been an intelligence officer in the past. It's not very easy, to write a novel based on, to write a novel, to write a story which is based on facts. And yet, because you have to keep certain things hidden and yet try to, identify them with events or names which are there. Retd Gothra, what do you think is the tell us about the importance of the book? What do you think is the impactful aspects of are the impactful aspects of your book?
Sir, firstly, thank you for inviting me to this talk, sir. I am very thankful to all of the people in the South Asia Monitor. Now about the book, sir. Firstly, I'll tell you how I started writing this book. When this Pulwama happened, people were searching for the bodies. Certainly, certain bodies were in very small pieces. And I could relate at that time that what all is going in the minds of the people who are searching for the pieces of the bodies of our soldiers who were there in Pulwama. And I could relate with my experiences in Sri Lanka. It was really bad with the LTT, our vehicles blown off and searching for the bodies. In fact, one of the body had diffused into another body. So later on, we took it out. So then I thought, what all is going in the minds of Pakistani perpetrators, whether it is the terrorist organizations or the Pakistani intelligence operatives or their army per se. I said, let me try and guess what is going on. I started going through the various facts. And I said, why they have gone for this type of thing? Suicide thing is not common with the Kashmiri terrorists. This I can tell from my experience in Kashmir. For quite a long time, I had been serving in the Kashmir and I've been associated with Kashmir. So how could they motivate a person from Kashmiri origin to go in for suicide? So that is where I said, let me see, let me try to contemplate. And I found there were certain indicators like the militancy going down, death of Sujat Bukhari, and the Burhan effect was petering out. So I said, all these things must be troubling the Pakistani army, that how can we revive the militancy in Kashmir? So they may have seen this as one of the things to perpetrate a suicide bombing and then restart the militancy there. So the second part is the advantage of this book. Looking into the minds of the enemy is a very difficult thing, and we should always try to do as military leaders. Because only then we may go wrong, but in the after thing, we can always analyze whether we have gone right or gone wrong. And later on, our future actions will be guided by that, whatever knowledge we have gained from the previous experiences. So in that way, I think my book will be very important for the military leaders, or even the leaders otherwise in the civil per se, who will be able to guess how they should go about thinking into and try to analyze the enemy's mind. So,
very interesting. Gothra, I recall that this caused a lot of, you know, it. I mean, there are so many incidents where we have, unfortunately, our establishment, our politico-bureaucratic establishment, has always believed in being reactive. So we, every time something happens, it makes us, it makes our blood boil, and we go about doing our job as army personnel. Go about doing our job, trying to catch the perpetrators, the ones who are involved in the ambush or the incident. It the Indian Army's capability has only been showcased, I'll say, in 2016 when we carried out what we called surgical strikes. Those surgical strikes were very, very well coordinated, well planned special forces actions, and the you know it was very creditable that over a front of 250 kilometers, 9 locations were targeted where you went in the night on foot. No exciting way of going like they did, like the US forces did in Abbottabad to catch Osama bin Laden. And we achieved the task and came back, fortunately, with no casualties on our side. Very good. And then Balakot, again, an excellent, very well planned and a very hard-hitting operation where we used spice ammunition to penetrate the building, and in Balakot, that was a very, very destructive ammunition, but one which caused very little visible, damage to structures. But unfortunately, these remain as technology demonstrators, capability demonstrators, because we've done them just once. After the abrogation of 370, Pakistan has been on to all kinds of new plans, like and ones which only this with a few terrorists tying down a whole company or a whole battalion, the asymmetry of is accentuated even more. Please comment on this. And as far as your book is, whatever you come out in your book says a lot.
I have described in my book how it must have looked in the place Balakot where they stuck, where our bombs had gone in and created the havoc there. Though of course it was conjecturing, but I know. But in a way, I also appreciate the Pakistani army. Look at the way they framed a story in a very short time that nothing happened there. And even our politicians started believing that nothing happened here. So they came out with a tweet early morning. We had nothing to say for quite some time. And even our media was playing their narrative. So the narrative war, the Pakistani journals have really played off well. It is only later on that our media could catch up and our clarification could come. But in that fog of war, that fog of war was very well exploited by the Pakistani journals. We have to learn from those people also. And how they went about, like how that I have written all those things that how they went about. Jal Bajwa must have got up very early. The decision must have been taken at a very high level. Jal the Asim Munir, who was the
You're referring to General Bajwa, the chief of the Pakistan Army.
Yeah, chief of the Pakistan Army, and
Kamar Bajwa.
The ISI, the ISPR, they must have thought in very briefly, in 15 odd minutes, they must have got to come out with a narrative, and then how they must have gone around proving that narrative to be right. Coming out with there were in succession about 3 to 4 tweets giving the details. Even the photograph which came out of the place of this destruction, they came out with some other place. They must have created some creator somewhere else, where they must have taken the part of the bomb there, clicked it, and within those 1 or 2 hours, they were able to come out with a photograph. But if you see that photograph, you can see the particles of sand on the parts of the bomb are different from the mud which is there in the crater. So one can always see through those things. But the onlooker always feels that they are right. So their narrative could pass off with a lot of people, and unfortunately with some of our politicians also. So information warfare is something which we have to learn a lot from that side. Unfortunately, fortunately, I was also part of the IW information warfare in Northern Command. We've also done our bit during surgical strike. We've been able to do it. For example, the operation in surgical strike were carried on foot. But during the period before that, if you were in Udhampur, you could see, or their Pakistani agents could see, that our boys were carrying out practice of helicopter operations like strike, in which people are hanging on from the rope and being extracted from the operation area. I'm sure the Pakistanis must have been preparing for the helicopter operations to come in, and unfortunate for them and good for us, we went in on foot and did everything. So there is a lot to learn from all these operations. Both sides have done a good job. The Pakistani, their senior leadership is excellent. That the way they have conducted their information ops, because they are Pakistanis. We should not. They should be loyal to. They should be doing what it is good for them. But we should study all those things and see through those things and come out with a counter narrative. So.
Yes, right. We have the capability. The army has the capability for carrying out cross-border, covert, many very effective, deadly operations. As far as our intelligence services are concerned, what one can what emanates from there is that the research and analysis being high, and maybe it was it was on a path of being quite effective till one of our prime ministers, Mr. I.K. Gujral, put paid to this aggressiveness related to Pakistan. If that is this is what is reported, I'm referring to open sources, and if this be so, then it's a great pity that vital aspects of national security are compromised by politics. It's happened. It's happened very often in India. And as far as a country like Pakistan is concerned, countries have an army. In Pakistan, the army has the country. It rules. It's a country which has had 4 presidents as chiefs of, from the army, and uh, even today they don't need to do that. Whatever be the political scenario, machinated or not, it's the army that calls the shots. So they don't have any problems. The Liberation Army doesn't have any problems because the Communist Party of China is fully they well knit. We your book again brings out the necessity of having a very steady, maintaining a steady and a very effective course of actions which cost the enemy, which put high costs on the enemies, army, whatever. It's this asymmetric warfare so far is only we are paying. We seem to be paying a larger price, much larger price. Um, you know,
So you are right. The synergy between the various parts of the government, like the political, the intelligence agencies, has to be there. And unfortunate, you have quoted about the I.K. Gujral government. But as of now, the synergy is coming up, and which is seen by the world, which is seen by the world, and even the Pakistanis could see that thing. The resolve of the national will, which could be seen by the Pakistanis also. That is why, in this part of the thing, they never threatened about the nuclear card. They never tried to get into the nuclear card. They never talked about it because they knew that this government will see through these things and it will not be possible. All through, they were uh, shitting in pants rather. The way way they came out with that suggestion to release
well,
Abhinandan immediately after the this thing, I think within very short time they had released him. So that all came because they knew that the Indian
oh yes,
national
oh yes.
is there, and the uh, the punishment will be very harsh from the Indian side. So that resolve, the threat in being, of course, is very important. So that threat on being with this government is very good. So,
No doubt. There have been number of cases where our operatives, our officers, or other operatives have been have just got caught and they've not we they haven't been returned.
so
Uh, and let's not talk about the about 54 personnel who, out of the 1971 war, were not registered as prisoner of war, and they've been languishing. I don't know how many of them are still alive.
so
But this is the worst kind of cruelty, or that an army can perpetrate on another, on its adversaries, on its enemy personnel. That is that's a fact of life. But here, Abhinandan being returned within, say, uh, 48 hours, was a little more, was certainly something which was a result of the Pakistan establishment being very, very wary and playing it very, being very careful. I will. Well, one is enjoying your book and I look forward to reviewing it also. One only hopes that in view of what is happening, in the past 4 incidents at least that have occurred in Poonch uh, over the last, say, 2 months. There's something which one feels needs to be, there's some urgent steps that need to be taken in that, to ensure that we don't lose, very, it's a great thing that we have an army that, we have junior leaders who lead from the front, but to lose too many of them, in this asymmetric warfare it's a great loss.
Sir, on this aspect of losing the junior leadership in this thing, there are some mistakes which we commit, and I have also committed such mistakes. And that first mistake is being impulsive. In a junior rank, certain sort of impulsiveness is required also, and
Yes.
patience is required. But unfortunately, you learn it later in life. So when I wrote my first book, my motivation was this only, that whatever mistakes I have committed, I should list out those things in our first book so that the future generations should learn from those things and they are able
Yes.
to.
Yes. No.
So I have shown them that with patience also you can carry out your job in a better way, and what they say is fight from a position of strength. The other part is the surveillance. Surveillance is a very
Strength.
boring job, very boring job. And you have to sit hours and days and months, but it cannot be done away with, especially during the counter-insurgency or counter-terrorist ops, where the damage to any property or person who is innocent cannot be there. So you have to be patient. You have to carry out your surveillance properly. And the third part is the institutional knowledge. We learn something and then we forget about it. Our future generations should know about those institutional knowledge. Say for that example, the incident which happened in Baflia's area in Taraba. I was commanding RR battalion there in the same place, and we used to find some terrorists in that almost the same area, same mode, where it goes to DKG, that from Buffalo, the road which goes to DKG from Buffalo, happening. And we were always perplexed, yeah, where these chaps are coming from. And we were searching the jungles all over. And ultimately, we were able to home on to these terrorists at some third place, which was totally unrelated. Of course, we destroyed the hideout later on. So sometimes you are looking at the wrong place. So one that unfortunately I was not able to put it on in writing, or maybe some people may not have read the thing. If they have read the thing, they could have carried out a surveillance on those particular areas. So the institutional knowledge, and no, it should be very accessible firstly, and then it should be interesting. What happens is, even if we try to wrap that institutional knowledge with a sort of a glory hunting. We try to say that I did this thing, and it becomes boring for the person who's reading it. He's not reading from, so ultimately he leaves it that this is one of those boasting. So institutional knowledge has to
Yes,
be
of course, of course.
It has to be in a very interesting way. The first book when I wrote, I gave it to somebody to just see. He says, this is the most useless book. You have gone in for glory hunting, trying to prove that you were better than anybody else. So, firstly, and then you have put all the jargon, Fauji jargon. It will be of no use to man or beast. So, it took me 6 months to simplify the whole thing, simplify the language, change the language, so that now my book can be read by a 13-year-old also. So, that type of institutional knowledge has to be, a lot of work has to be carried out in that area. So.
Yes, of course. No, it's a one hopes that this gets circulated wide enough. It deserves to be read. And yes, you're right about the junior leaders. We need to have a good mix of the impulsiveness, which is also related to what we call Josh. The Josh and the Hosh have to be balanced there, and not we shouldn't be breaking certain very basic tactical rules of. But anyway, one hopes that actions will be taken to make our Pakistan pay much more for whatever it's perpetrating. And but one, I'll end by saying that the if we really want to get rid of terrorism, then these special operations like the surgical strikes or Balakot should be done periodically, maybe once in a quarter, and maybe we won't need to do them more than 4 or 5 times, because if we repeat them over a period of 3 to 6 months, we may actually succeed in hitting this terror machinery of Pakistan hard enough. We have to prove that we can go and target their their minions there also.
Sure.
All the bloody Hafiz Sayyids, etc. They should get they should start fearing for their lives. Anyway, thank you, Brig Gothra. It was, and one hopes your book will be enjoyed by many more. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.